Hello and welcome to the Tier 1 Interventions podcast, where we share with you tips, techniques, and strategies to strengthen your core. The core classroom, that is. Without a core classroom, we cannot thrive. Learn how to create an inclusive climate and culture and environment in the regular Tier 1 core classroom through a collaboration of the regular classroom teacher, intervention specialists, instructional coach, occupational therapist, and other direct service providers. Through this collaboration, we can blend our expertise to maximize learning for all students, and specifically students with learning disabilities. Through this, we can also eliminate the number of students needing Tier 2 and Tier 3 pull-out interventions. These back-end body, brain, and emotional, mental, cognitive, physical aspects that students need to maintain and regulate before they have access to learning.
Hey everybody, listen in while Jonily does a Hear Me Teach segment with second grade with paper folding. No.
Here we are, grade 2. Couple of directions. Leave your folder closed. And you should all have a strip of paper. And if you do not, go ahead and raise your hand. I'll bring you one. Did you get an extra? Oh, sorry. Thank you. What we're going to do today is get a little more formal with our paper folding, because we're going to need this for the beginning of next year. So this is going to become one of the most important things that we do next year in 3rd grade. So you have your paper strip, and I want you to stay with me today. I want you to take your time, really embrace what we're doing. How many paper strips do you have? Tell me. One. So we're always starting with one paper strip. So the number that we start with is 1. How many parts are there on here? If we pretended that we were going to split this up in parts later, how many parts are we starting with? Priscilla? 2. We're always 1. 1. We're starting with 1 part. 1 paper strip, 1 part, 1 candy bar, 1 sandwich, 1. So we have the number 1. There you go. Perfect. But how many do you have?
1.
That's the point. That's the point. We've got 1, and we have not split it into pieces yet. Now, open your ears and listen very carefully. Touch your paper end to end. Try to be very exact. Touch your paper end to end. And you're going to pinch, fold, make a crease right in the middle if the ends are lined up. And you're going to pinch, fold, so make sure those ends are lined up. Try to be very exact. And pinch the middle, the center, fold, make a crease. When we open this up, now Priscilla, when we open this up, how many parts now? There you go. We started with 1 part, 1 paper strip. We open this up and we have how many parts? 2. Now, when I have you do this on your own, so in February and March, we're going to come back to paper strips a little more often. When I have you do this on your own, whenever you do any of these actions with the paper strip, we are going to document the number of parts. how many parts did we start with? Tell me. One. We started with one part. And how many folds did we do? So when I gave you your paper strip, and it looked like this, how many folds were there when you first got it? Tell me. No. How many parts? Tell me. One. But how many folds were there when I gave this to you? 0. So I want you to be very specific. Before we did any folds, we had one part. So 0. So I want you to be very specific. Before we did any fold, when we had 0 folds, we had one part. This doesn't sound like a big deal, but this is a big deal mathematically. It doesn't sound like it's very important, and it doesn't sound like it's too difficult, but it is very difficult. Raise your hand to tell me, what does this 0 mean? What does this 0 mean? Cora? Oh, no, the 0 doesn't mean 0 parts. When I first gave you this, when you started with a paper strip, tells us the starting. The 0 tells us the start. How many times did we fold it? 0. So raise your hand to tell me what the 0 means. Priscilla? 0 folds. 0 actions. I did 0 things to it. And when I did 0 things, how did I get 1? What does 1 mean? Cora?
It means you folded it.
I folded it 0 times. I have a paper with no folds. So Cora, what does the 1 mean? Part. We see 1 space here. 1 sub. 1 candy bar. 1 stick of gum. Whatever it is. Okay? Now what we need to talk about today is the value. Now I'm going to tell you what this means. We've been doing values when you guys, remember you saw the dominoes and there were a bunch of 2s?
Yes.
What's the value of that picture? Tell me on 3. 1, 2, 3. 6. The value tells us what number represents. So the value, when I have 1 part, what's the value of 1? The value, don't make it too hard. 1. The value of 1 is 1. So I had 1 part, and the value is 1 whole paper strip. 1 whole paper strip. Now, y'all with me right now? You feel like you're losing focus and getting bored? You're like, yeah, we get it. 0, 1, 0, 1, 0, 1. Let's move on. But this is very important to understand what's happening. I'm going to have some of you say it again. Tell me about the stuff on the board. Tell me about the stuff on the board. Catherine. Now wait, listen to this, Jackson. Regroup. Go ahead, Catherine.
So is how we start, and it is the amount of folds that we started with.
Love it. What else can you tell me about what is on the board?
That you said that the start is with 0, parts 1, values 1, 1 part is 1, and that I just noticed that you put 3 dice and you made 6.
And that has nothing to do with our paper strip. What was I trying to tell you with that? What word was I trying to explain? The value. The value. Very good. What else can you tell me about what we just did? What else can you tell me about what we just did? Everly, what were you going to say? Or did it pass? You want to say something or no? No. Okay. Priscilla.
So,
What else can you tell me about what we just did? Everly, what were you going to say? Or did it pass? You want
about the parts.
Yes.
So when you had it, it was only one big strip.
Correct. How many parts was that? And then we did one action. We did one action. What was our action that we did? How many parts was that? And then we did one action. We did one. What was our action that we did? Everly. We folded. What was our action that we did? Everly. We folded. What was our action? So when we now open it up, after this one action, go ahead and open it up. How many parts do I have? Tell me. Good. I have 2 parts. Now, nothing fancy about that. Nothing fancy about that. I have 2 parts. This is the important piece. Raise your hand to tell me what is the value of one of these parts. I have 2 parts, but I do not have I didn't create 2 candy bars. I don't have 2 sandwiches. I don't have 2 sticks of gum. I still have 1. The value, even though there's 2 parts, the value of this paper strip is still 1. So when I split it, when I folded it, when I did this action, what happened to the value? Riley, how much is this part worth? Take less. So I need a number less than 1 that describes the value of this part. So listen again. I started with 1 paper strip. I did an action. I folded. I ended up with 2 parts. But I do not have 2 sandwiches. Let me ask a different question first. Raise your hand to tell me what a value of 2 would look like. Let me ask a different question first. Raise your hand to tell me what a value of 2 would look like. Let me ask a different question first. Raise your hand to tell me what would a value of 2 look like. Warren, what do you think? What would a value of 2 what?
A value of 2 is
2 what? Tell me with these.
2
What?
pieces.
Not 2 pieces. What would a value of 2 be with these?
2 parts.
No, it wouldn't be 2 parts. What would a value of 2 be with paper strips? What would it look like? Alana? No, watch this. Eyes up here. Recheck in. Recheck in, Dylan. What's the value of this? Tell me. What's the value of this? Tell me. 2. So describe to me a value of 2 with paper strips. Tell me, Priscilla. 2 paper strips. So if I have 1 paper strip, this is a value of 1. Means I have 1 sub, 1 gum stick, 1 candy bar. I have 1. I cannot create more than 1 unless I have another paper strip. But I did this action, and now I have a number less than 1. What is the value of that number? Anastasia. It's not 1 because, look, this is 1, and this is a number smaller than 1. Is 2 bigger than 1 or smaller than 1? Bigger. This is what 2 looks like. This is what 2 looks like. We'd have to have both of ours. But what value is this piece? Jackson.
0.
Ooh, 0 is no paper strip at all. So is this bigger than 0 or smaller than 0? Tell me.
Bigger.
This is bigger than 0, but less than 1. Jackson.
A half. 1/2.
What did Jackson say? Tell me. That is exactly the value of this. This is a half. A half. What's the value? Tell me. So here's what I want you to do. On your paper strip, with your pencil, all the way on this edge, as close to this edge as possible, you're going to put a 0. Because a 0 is before the paper strip happens. What do you think you're going to put all the way over on this edge?
2.
How many paper strips is this? 1. So as close to that edge as possible, that's going to be a 1 because this is one whole paper strip. On the crease, find the crease. The crease is where that fold is in the middle. On the crease, we're going to describe this part and what's the value of that part? Nope. What's the value of one of these spaces? Half. So on the crease, you're going to write the word half. H-A-L-F. Half. Half. So the value of one of these parts, the value of one part after the action for this one is half. It's actually 1/2. Nope, not, oh, I love it, love it, love it. Not 1 1/2. Let me ask this. Ooh, where's my fancy people? What would 1 1/2 look like? 1 1/2. What would that look like with paper strips? Yes. 1 1/2. What would that look like with paper strips? So how many paper strips would I need to show it? Why? Why? Yes. Say it again.
It won't be enough. One won't be enough paper to make 1 1/2 paper.
Boom. I'm going to show you 1 1/2. What's the value of this? Tell me.
0.
No, it's not. I see something here, so it's not 0. Let me ask you this. What's the value of this paper strip?
0.
That's 0. There's none there. There's 0 paper strips. So what's the value of this? 1. What's the value of this? 2. What's the value of this?
1 1/2.
Say it again, Everly. So the value of a paper strip and another, okay, so the value of this one paper strip and this half, this is 1 1/2. So it's 1 whole and 1/2. So this, we say it 1 1/2. That's how we say this. But this is not 1 1/2. How do we say this piece right here? 1/2. Say 1/2.
1/2.
Ooh, how many halves is a whole paper strip?
2.
2 what?
Halves.
2 halves. A whole paper strip is 2 halves. Now, hold up your paper strip. Do your first action and show it to me. What's the value of this? 1. Not 1. Not 2. Half. Half. Now fold this end to end again. So we're going to do a second action. We're going to do a second action here. We're going to do a second fold, a second action. So your size should look like mine. Did you fold end to end? When we open this, how many parts will there be? Tell me, Sloan.
4.
Good. Open it up. Open it up. Luke, say that again. Oh, Luke, you are fantastic. Luke said a half of a half. I'm going to put that in quotes, and I'm going to call that the Luke phrase. Luke, that's going to be your sentence. Half of a half, okay? Because we just did half of a half. Okay? Ooh, let's talk about this. Let's back up for a minute. Back up for a minute. I just did my second action. So Jackson, Stella, Sloan, Catherine, Matthew. Okay? Jack. I just did my second action. I opened this up. How many parts are there? Tell me. 4. But said that the action we did created a half of a half.
It's actually 4 quarters.
So now I need to know, what is the value of one of these parts? What is the value of one of these parts? Jackson, what do you think?
1 quarter.
Jackson thinks 1/4. Agree or disagree? What do you think it is, Priscilla?
A half of a half.
A half of a half, just like Luke. So here's the question. How much is a half of a half?
A fourth.
What do you think, Sloan? Do you agree with Luke?
1/4.
That's what Jackson said, 1/4. Priscilla's agreeing with a half of a half. Luke is saying 1/4. Catherine?
A quarter. 4 quarters.
Ah. Yes.
A part of a quarter.
Oh,
A chunk of
good. Talk to me.
I agree with Luke for the first one.
Okay. Yeah. Okay.
Just because he's your best friend? No, actually not.
No, we're having a good mathematical discussion here. This is fascinating. So fascinating. Ollie. So what's the value of Luke's phrase here? Half of a half. What do you think? What do you think, Warren?
A fourth.
You think a half of a half is a fourth?
Because
Go ahead, Luke. I'm going to tell you the value of this piece. Let me ask you this. Is the value of this piece bigger than 0 or smaller than 0? Tell me. Bigger than 0. Is it bigger than 1 or smaller than 1? Smaller than 1. Is it bigger than a half or smaller than a half? Smaller than a half. It's actually half of a half. So it's actually a part of a half. Here's what I'm going to tell you. It is a quarter. It's 1/4. But another way to say that is 1/4. Those mean the same thing. A quarter and a fourth.
yeah, because I said that a quarter is a fourth.
It is. A quarter is a fourth. Wait a minute. Wait a minute. Oh, so Luke, is a third going to be bigger than a fourth or smaller than a fourth? And then is a third going to be bigger than a half or smaller than a half? Luke, I want you to do this. I want you to fold this one into 3 equal parts. 3 equal parts.
Only 3?
Only 3. Just 3 equal parts. 3 equal parts. Okay? Jackson.
I was looking at the parts
Yeah.
on it, but I was just looking at
Yes.
they're doubling. They're just going to keep going doubling.
Oh, hold the phone.
3.
Oh, good. Jackson, say what you said again. Listen to this. Go ahead.
The parts are just going to keep doubling.
So if I folded this a third time, let's do it. Let's do it. Let's do it. Do a third action. Don't open it. Good job. Good job. Do a third action. Don't open it. Do a third. Don't open it. Do a third action. Make yours this size. Yep. Yep. You're good. You got 3. You are awesome. You are so super awesome right now. Now, Luke, I'm going to tell you, how many parts do you have with this one?
3.
3. What's the value of one of those parts?
Half.
It's not a half.
A half of a half. So
No. Regroup. I'm just going to tell you. This is a third because it relates to 3. If there's 3 parts, it's a third. If there's 3 parts, it's a third. So this is the size of a third. So there you go. Oh my gosh. Can I give you a hug or no?
You can.
I can, because this deserves a good hug. You are, wow. Don't open it. You didn't open it, did you? Let me see your size like mine. How many parts do you think there will be? Don't open it. Don't open it. How many parts do you think there will be? Stella?
8.
How many you think?
8.
How many you think?
8.
How many?
8.
How many?
8.
How many?
8.
How many?
8.
You sure? You sure there's not going to be 6 parts?
I was thinking 6.
Yeah.
I was going to say 6 too.
Open it up and see.
Or 6.
Open it up and see. Count how many parts.
I don't have to fully open it. I just count by 2. 8.
So Jackson,
8.
very brilliant. Oh my goodness. So what is the value? What is the value? Oh my gosh. You guys, look, what we did was we now split this up and we have 8 parts. But what's the value of one of these parts? Matthew, listen.
Okay.
Luke, it goes along with what we said. What do you think? It is. Okay, this is Grayson's phrase. It's of a half. Which, Luke, we just talked about this with your 3 parts. What's the value of one? If there's 8 parts, what's the value of one of those parts?
Half of a half of a half.
But what word would that be? And it's going to sound like 8.
8.
Eighths. Everybody do the TH sound. Let me see your mouth. Hey, wait a minute. It's not this. We don't say TH. We don't use our lips. We use our teeth. It's a quiet. Now, everybody say, hear me in 4. Here. Everybody say 8.
8.
I'm going to write it so that you can see it. One of these parts is called 1/8. It's got that TH at the end. 1/8. What is bigger, a half or an eighth?
A half. 8.
That we will discover another time.
Jonily and I invite you to learn more about paper folding at disabilitylabs.com. That's right, at disabilitylabs.com, you can find a workshop called Paper Folding to learn more about how to implement paper folding in the classroom. Hope to see you there. Oh, and the link will be in the show notes.